Depending on a system's requirements, your average passenger train tends to look something like this. Sort of like a circumcised airplane, if the surgeon used a cleaver instead of a scalpel. Oh, the algorithm is gonna love this one. The benefit of a shape like this is that you can have really short trains, but you can also daisy chain a bunch of trains together to make one long train, through which passengers can still move from one unit to the next. Of course, these units can easily reach the 150 kilometers an hour or whatever other bullshit measurement you're using due to their engine and gearing. But if you go back some 100 years or so, if you wanted to go at such a speed, your train looked something like this. About equally penal shaped, I know, but what's interesting here is what's under the hood. See, whilst you can switch out an engine and the gearbox from a Fiat Multipla to make it go faster, with ye old-fashioned trains, that's practically impossible. Not to mention you'd be made fun of for driving a Fiat Multipla. With a car or a modern diesel train, the engine and gearing are separate parts within the whole of the unit. But with a steam locomotive, the whole unit is the engine. If you wanted to change the gear ratio on a steam engine, you'd need to fit completely new wheels to it. Maybe some new cylinders to accommodate the new wheel size better, and before you know it, you're left with a completely different locomotive. Companies would have very similar looking locomotives for various jobs, the only real thing setting them apart being the wheel and cylinder size, to take the max speed into account. Makes sense when you think about it. Using a locomotive with big wheels for slow trains would be like using your e-bike to visit your next door neighbors, or a Fiat Multipla for a clown car competition. Vastly overqualified. You have to remember that while diesel engines have multiple cylinders driving the generator, the cylinders of a steam engine are connected directly to the wheels. The chuffers don't have the benefit of the traction motor and gear ratio middleman. Their wheel size is the gear ratio. Now don't get it twisted, steam trains had a gearbox, in the form of their reverser, which cuts off how much steam is allowed to fill the cylinder But the lack of a geared transmission between a traction motor and a driven axle like on a modern train means the transmission on a steam locomotive from cylinders to wheels is direct. And this is where those big wheels come in. They're not just for show. Well, maybe on this one they are. But the larger the wheel, the longer a revolution lasts. One cylinder stroke. Jeffrey, this looks dirty. One cylinder stroke means half a revolution of a wheel, meaning that, say, on a normal steam locomotive with 2 cylinders, if a revolution lasts longer, the train has moved farther. But this brings with it a pretty big downside. Because a wheel rotation takes so long, and I'm simplifying here, it applies less power per second, if you will, when compared to a small wheel. But trains are heavy, so sometimes, when the weight of what needs moving exceeds the amount of power the large wheels can put down at rail level, you get wheel spin. Now slipping looks really cool, but it puts an immense amount of strain on the mechanical parts of a locomotive, sometimes literally causing them to melt and need replacing. And don't think train companies were too happy about their big fancy kettles breaking things. It's a bit like how when you broke your mum's vase, when you were playing with your friends, and your mother was all cool about it saying, "Oh, I hated that thing anyway," and your buds thought it was awesome. But the second your friends leave, she gets mad. Bullshit. Anyway, for more power you need more wheels, or like what most of Europe did, tiny wheels. Now small wheels are not just for heavy freight. This one is a passenger locomotive with small wheels. But due to the small wheel applying more power per second than large ones, it can get more revolutions in quicker. Meaning that, with a sufficient train weight, the smaller wheeled locomotive gets to its max speed quicker than the large wheeled one, even if the overall speed is lower. Some countries, like France, tried to offset this adhesion problem by building locomotives with many big wheels. Others, with more restrictive networks and lower demands, like the Netherlands, gave their big engines mid-sized wheels for the best power-to-speed ratio. In the country of Uk, they tried to do both, building a few locomotives with many mid-sized wheels. Problem is, like most of the things the English do, they sort of half-assed it, and then never tried again when it didn't instantly work. There was this one, which desperately wants to be as good as the French steam engines, and then there's this one, which is so seldom remembered most people don't even know it lasted until May 1964. In fact, whenever a British steam locomotive with more than 6 driving wheels was a success on passenger trains, it was by accident. Other places, mostly ex-Commonwealth, had no such issues with passenger engines having more than 6 driving wheels. Australia had this Buster sort looking thing, South Africa had the ass-to-ass formula for locomotives, and in America they made what I can only describe as the physical manifestation of the heavy metal music genre. Now those wheels on some American designs are worth looking at. Whereas most wheels on steam trains worldwide are these spooky things, on some American designs the wheels are these dishes with holes in them. This makes them lighter than spoked wheels. and possibly a very bad soup dish for giants. There were variations on this type of wheel, but the one which saw the widest use was the Boxpok wheel, so named because they're made out of boxed off sections. Despite being hollow, they were actually stronger than the usual fully cast spoked wheel. It also aided in balancing, making them ideal for passenger locomotives running at higher speeds. And Boxpok wheels were like totally in, even the Germans used them. But like Disney in the 90s, for every highly successful idea there's a slightly older, almost identical execution of the idea, by someone who doesn't have an army of lawyers to defend them when something in turn takes their idea. This is the skull and disc wheel. Jeffrey, why did you bleep that? I said disc wheel. Those bleeps are coming out of your pay package, Jeffrey. The skull and disc wheel was mainly used on the New York Central Railroad Hudsons. I feel like I have to censor these. For Australia's Hudsons, the class out of the Victorian broad gauge railways used these. Patented by a guy called Painter and developed by the Steel Company of Australia, these SCOA-P wheels are sort of a non-committal version of a spoked wheel. And yet they're stronger than either Boxpok or spoked. SCOA-P wheels eliminate the inherent weakness of a spoked wheel, which is the junction between the rim of the wheel and the spokes themselves, with a cross-section U-shape doing much of the heavy lifting. Now look at this. This is a British locomotive. Boxpok wheels, right? Wrong. You see, when the engineer Oliver Bulleid had to make big engines on the cheap, he took a look at Boxpok wheels and thought, I can do that better. Realizing the disc nature meant the tire, the metal band around the edge of the wheel, would be better supported, Ollie Bulleid, together with a steelmaker out of Sheffield, developed a wheel with a stronger wheel center and outer rim. And thus the Bulleid-Firth brown wheel was born. They were 12% lighter than equivalent spoked wheels, and, due to the better weight distribution, did not need counterweights, eliminating hammer blow. Oh yes, I hadn't mentioned hammer blow. When the heavy side of a steam engine's wheel comes back down, it thrashes a lot of mass down onto that specific point on the rail, over time creating effective dents in the railhead. Sort of like what happens when your mum comes down the stairs. This is an issue modern traction doesn't have, as there is no heavy side of the wheel, as traction motors don't need counterbalancing. In fact, modern traction just uses disc wheels again. They didn't at first, but then builders realized that just making a set of small disc wheels was cheaper and stronger than making big spoked wheels. Which is a shame, because I think a lot of us can agree that spoked wheels are objectively cooler to look at. Jeffrey, who did Oliver bully? It says so right here, Oliver bullied. Who did he bully? That wasn't very nice of him. Well, I suppose if the person was being annoying you could bully them, but you're missing my point, Jeffrey. Oh, that was his name! Idiot.